howdy, and welcome to Mo's World, the baseball podcast. We're excited to bring you another episode where we chat about baseball like a group of friends hanging out at the bar. If you enjoy the podcast, do the subscribe thing and spread the word to your friends. In our 22nd episode, we want to express a big thank you to all our loyal listeners for your ongoing support. And for those that are new here, thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoy the show. All right, this is a highly anticipated show for today. I have to admit that. Have you ever wondered how the Hall of Fame voting works? Well, let's take a look. Have you ever wondered how a certain player got voted into the Hall of Fame? Or why another player did not get elected? Well, if you have, today's the episode for you. The method for voting in most of the players was created by the Hall of Fame board decades ago and implemented by select members of Baseball Writers Association of America. This results in the induction of about 1% of all who have participated in Major League Baseball in any eligible area. The numbers provided by the Hall, there are 343 elected members. Included are 270 former Major League players, 135 of them elected by Baseball Writers Association of America, the BBWAA, along with 40 executives, pioneers, 23 managers, 10 umpires. By position, there are 84 pitchers, 19 catchers, 26 first basemen, 20 second basemen, 18 third basemen, 26 shortstops, 23 left fielders, 24 center fielders, 27 right fielders, 3 designated hitters, 23 managers, 10 umpires, 40 executives, and a partridge in a pear tree. Alrighty, 'tis the season. Now, to be eligible for the Hall of Fame ballot, a player must have played in the big leagues for at least 10 years. He has to be retired for at least 5 years, unless the player dies. In that case, a rule can be waived. Now, to receive at least 5% of the eligible vote each year to remain on the writer's ballot for a full 10 years. So you need to receive 5% of the vote each year. That's where a lot of players get screwed. You know, they don't get that first year because everybody thinks that they're going to be back on it, you know? Now, a screening committee of baseball writers selects the names to appear on each ballot. And there were 26 players on the most recent ballot. Now, just like the Hall of Fame elections, a player must receive a supermajority of 75% of the votes from eligible members of the Baseball Writers Association to be elected. Who elects players to the National Baseball Hall of Fame? Now, not every member of the Baseball Writers Association can vote for the Hall of Fame. Members can vote after 10 consecutive seasons of covering baseball and ending 10 years after their active membership in that group transitions to a lifetime status. Right now, there are about 400 baseball writers in the Association of America. The members eligible to vote for the Hall of Fame, so did that make sense? 400 members. A writer can vote for a maximum of 10 players on the ballot. The eligible writers must officially register each year and sign a code of conduct, I guess to say that you're not going to be a knucklehead and not vote for Derek Jeter. Wait, that happened. I don't know, whatever. So they got to put it in the mail by November, and it has to be mailed back by December 31st. There's no specific rules, and that's what we're going to get into today. But voting should be based upon a player's record, playing ability, integrity, sportsmanship, character, contributions to the team on which the player played. Now, there's no formal discussion about the candidates. Each writer can voluntarily announce their vote, but there isn't a mandatory rule. Now, even though the Baseball Writers Association of America has voted overwhelmingly several times to stipulate that reporting the vote be mandatory, the Hall has declined to endorse that rule. I don't know. That's kind of covering up for, stupid votes, I think. Now, the Hall will announce the name of each writer who participated in the election, but not their choices. Alrighty? So the Hall Board of Directors stipulates that it reserves the right to revoke, alter, or amend these rules at any time. In other words, it's the Hall's game, and they can take it with them if they want. It's their game. Now, once a player is ineligible for the Baseball Writers Association Hall of Fame ballot, can they be elected any other way? Now, you know where we're going with this. Players who are no longer eligible for the Hall of Fame ballot can be elected through the ERA committee system. Managers, umpires, executives, they're all eligible only in the ERA committee system. The voting procedure for the Baseball Writers Association and the ERA committee is different. Now, the ERA committees, which are similar to the old Veterans Committee, they consist of 3 committees of 16 members each. Now, these members include Hall of Fame players, executives, writers, historians, all chosen by the Hall of Fame board. Now, the composition of the committees rotates every 3 years. Now, there are 3 separate committees within the ERA's committee. They like to keep all things covered, right? The Contemporary Era Players Committee, the Contemporary Era Non-Players Committee, and the Classic Baseball Era Committee. The Contemporary Era Players Committee votes in players whose careers span from 1980 or later. And while the Contemporary Era Non-Players Committee votes on managers, umpires, executives, all who worked in Major League Baseball from 1980 or later. Now, the Classic Baseball Era Committee, they vote on everyone else whose career began prior to 1980. Now, the Baseball Writers Association appoints 10 to 12 members to identify 8 names on each ERA committee ballot. The members of the screening committee and voting committee, they vary each year. Alrighty, so let's get into this. The ERA committees meet in person each December and in the venue and on the day prior to the winter meetings. So each of the 8 people on the ballot receives a full vetting during the lengthy meeting. And at the conclusion of that process, each of the 16 members can vote for as many as 3 candidates and then submit their ballots privately. They are sworn to secrecy under the threat of expulsion from all future committees. So that's why just recently on the 9th, the ERA committee announced that Dick Allen and Dave Parker were going to be the new members of the Hall of Fame voted on by the ERA committee. Now, the ERA committees have been biased and easily swayed of late. And that's a shame. Producing candidates who do not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, for example, Harold Baines of the White Sox was elected into the Hall of Fame in 2019. Baines was heavily promoted by his old manager, Tony La Russa. Now, I totally disagree with his election, and the consequences of his voting will have an impact on our future results. Let me explain. Now, Harold Baines played from 1980 to 2001. He played 13 total seasons with the White Sox, 2 years with the Texas Rangers, 3 years with the Oakland A's, and 7 seasons with the Baltimore Orioles. And he also played a few games with the Indians. Literally a few. Now, after 22 full seasons, he retired at age 42, ending his career with his 3rd stint with the White Sox. Now, 22 full seasons, that's a nice career, right? Now, let's talk about his career accomplishments. And we're talking Hall of Famer now. Now, despite his long career, Harold Baines did not lead the league in many categories. As a matter of fact, he led the American League in slugging only in 1984 with the White Sox in his age 25 season. That is the only time he led the league in 22 years in the majors. Most of the teams he played for were not very good, and he was often the star player. His average season, I have it from Baseball Reference. I'm looking at it right now, and I want you to look it up. Go to Baseball Reference and look it up. Harold Baines. Look up his average season. Look up what he did. And you tell me if you feel good that a 22 home run, 93 RBIs, batting .289, he had a 121 OPS plus. He had a nice career. That's it. He had a nice career. He had 25 home runs, 105 in 82. He followed it up with a nice stretch of 2099, 2994, 22 113. He hit for about 280 to 305. He did not do too bad. He was a nice player. And the 1 year that he led in slugging, he had a 541 slugging, and that was in 1984. But we've got an awful lot of years here. And, he accumulated 1,628 RBIs, which is a lot of RBIs, right? But he only had 102 years, 3 years. And he was not a star. He was not. He was not a star. He was a good player. That's all he was. So, great years? Hardly. Harold Baines was just a good, decent player who was lucky enough to have a long career. His longevity enabled him to pad some stats. And he was a DH most of his career. And he didn't really have to worry about playing the field the last 10 years of his career. His career OPS plus, like I said, was 121. Now, the average Hall of Fame player is a 303 average, an on base of 376, a slugging of 461, an OPS plus of 128, and a WAR of 72.2. That's the average Hall of Fame batter. And the average Hall of Fame batter played 18 years and started his career at age 21 and retired at the age of 39. Once again, average. So obviously Harold Baines does not fit the criteria here, nor does he meet mine. I just hope the ERA committee improves from this biased experience in selections. He was not a leader of his peers. Thus, he is not a Hall of Famer in my eyes. So, what player is a Hall of Famer? What are you elected on? Well, I call this the Mo criteria. And since the Hall of Fame doesn't have a criteria, this is mine. And this is what I go by. How should a player be judged if there's no basic rules? A Hall of Fame player is someone who stood out in their career, who defines the way the game is played, and is revered by both peers and fans. Their presence creates an atmosphere where teammates perform better and excites the fans and media alike. They are loved by their teammates most likely and hated by the opposition. And they stand head and shoulders above their peers, leading in major offensive or defensive stats and easily noticeable metrics. I'm looking for a long career of 15 plus years, where he led the league in multiple categories throughout his career. That is a Hall of Famer. So, a typical Hall of Fame career, according to my criteria, years 1 through 4, on average, they're coming up, they're slightly inconsistent, but they show exciting results. Someone to look at, someone to look for. Do they have the potential of longevity? Because that's what you need to be voted as a Hall of Famer. Now, years 5 through 12, they're the leader in categories, defining his talent and potential. Challenged his contemporaries to beat his production, was a dominant force. Now we move into years 13 to 17. We're showing decline, possible injuries impacting his play, but that player is still very dangerous. This is a career of a Hall of Famer. He leads his team. He leads the league. He excites. Do you think this is the kind of player that should be in the Hall of Fame? When considering a player's worthiness for the Hall, using the criteria and applying it to the player or an existing Hall of Famer is the way to go. There are numerous players whose Hall of Fame credentials are up for debate. Baseball fans often try to compare players from different eras. You may have heard a former player say about a current player, "He could have played on our team." What they mean by that comment is that the player in question was a hard-nosed, no-nonsense player who could excel in any era due to his dedication to the game. He transcends the years. That's the beauty of baseball. Now, a concerning reality is the increase in acceptance of gambling in sports. Numerous sportsbooks, such as Bet365, DraftKings, BetMGM, Fanatics Sportsbook, Hard Rock Bet, Caesars Holdings, FanDuel Sportsbook, ESPN Bet, SI Sportsbook, the Bet Online, they all work in conjunction with MLB. And these sports gambling sites are advertised on TV, the Major League Baseball Network, the local team advertising, and at the stadiums. Why? The answer is always money. Always. It's a means to generate additional revenue for the team, owner, regional sports network, or national broadcaster. Americans gambled a whopping $66.5 billion last year, with online apps accounting for $11 billion for themselves. That's a staggering number. I find it incredibly ironic that baseball is now so involved with gambling, all the while trying to uphold the integrity of the game, but accepting money from these sites. So I don't agree with this recent trend. It's bullshit. Now, it was announced recently that Bally's Regional Sports Network was acquired by FanDuel. So now gambling sites are producing MLB games. I find this totally unacceptable and a major sellout for the God almighty dollar by MLB. Which brings me to the major question of the day. Why isn't Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame? Now, some of you are rolling your eyes already saying, another fucking wacko talking about Pete Rose. He's a cheater. He's this, he's that. Now, this podcast was in post-production when the death of Pete Rose was announced. It was a sad day in baseball. Now, all Pete Rose wanted was to be given another chance. All he wanted was to be reinstated by MLB. He loved baseball, and he needs to be affiliated with baseball. The petty reason for Commissioner Manfred not to reinstate Pete Rose must stop. MLB is covering up Shohei Ohtani's involvement with his translator and can't reinstate Pete Rose? Disgusting. Let's hope for a change. Baseball fans will miss Pete Rose. Now, as per Wikipedia, in August of 1989, which was his last year as manager and 3 years after retiring as a player, Rose was penalized with permanent ineligibility from baseball. And that was amidst accusations that he gambled on baseball games while he played for and managed the Reds. The charges of wrongdoing included claims that he bet on his own team. In 1991, the Baseball Hall of Fame formally voted to ban those on the permanently ineligible list from induction, after previously excluding such players by formal agreement among voters. Now, after years of public denial, Rose admitted in 2004 that he bet on baseball and on the Reds. The issue of his possible reinstatement and election to the Hall of Fame remains a contentious throughout baseball. Now, in June of 2015, ESPN completed its investigation of Rose and found that in fact he did bet on baseball while still a player manager. The investigation revealed that records of bets made by Rose and was seized by federal authorities from one of his associates. Pete Rose has been banned for 33 years. He admitted to gambling on his teams to win. Perhaps it's time to reconsider his ban and allow him to be placed on the ballot. Reinstate him to the game and let his name partake in ceremonies of the Cincinnati Reds and the Philadelphia Phillies. Pete Rose deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. If you agree with me, I implore you to write to the commissioner if you want Pete Rose back in baseball. This is who you contact. Rob Manfred, Commissioner of Baseball, 1271 Avenue of the Americas, New York City, New York, 10020. Do better yet, call him, 212-931-7800. Ask for the Commissioner of Baseball. Write, call, get involved. Pete Rose has paid his dues. Now, looking at his career, how can we deny him any longer? Commissioner Manfred, Pete Rose is now gone. Let him back into baseball. Pete played 24 years, the Major League Baseball career hits leader with 4,256. He led in 38 offensive categories throughout his career. Rookie of the Year, 3-time World Series winner, 2 times Gold Glove winner, Silver Slugger, World Series MVP, 3-time batting title, the Clemente Award. Now, I do have one other thing I need to get off my chest. People have a lot of strong opinions on the reinstatement possibilities of Pete Rose concerning his gambling allegations. Yet, it appears to me that the lack of media coverage and truth coming from Major League Baseball on the Shohei Ohtani gambling scandal asks many questions that have gone unanswered. I know this is a different state of affairs with MLB in partnership with gambling sites and still trying to maintain the integrity of the sport by saying betting is not allowed for players. Then help me understand these facts. Ohtani's former interpreter and close confidant admitted to stealing nearly $17 million from the MLB star to fund his spiraling gambling debts. He is thought to have placed 19,000 wagers between December 2021 and January 2024, an average of nearly 25 bets a day. He won $142 million, but lost more than $180 million. Now, Major League Baseball closed its investigation and its findings to conclude that Ohtani was nothing more than a victim. Case closed. So Ohtani had no idea that $17 million was stolen from him. You know, I find that ignorance, more than a victim. It's highly debatable. If Major League Baseball doesn't have the balls to reinstate Pete Rose, at least lift the ban on him and let the fans immediately decide if he can be voted on by the Hall of Fame. Now, like I mentioned earlier, on December 9th, 2024, Dave Parker and Dick Allen were voted into the Hall of Fame by the Classic Era Committee. The announcement came from the winter meetings in Dallas, and I want to congratulate both those players as they did indeed have Hall of Fame credentials. This is not a voting farce like the Harold Baines episode. Take a quick look at their careers. Once again, baseballreference.com, and you'll see that Dick Allen led the league in 27 categories in his 15-year career. He was MVP, Rookie of the Year, 7-time All-Star. And Dave Parker, he led the league in 20 categories in his 19-year career. He was an MVP, a 7-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champ, 3-time Silver Slugger Award, an All-Star MVP, Gold Glove winner, and a batting title winner twice. So we covered a lot. And I'm pretty adamant on how my belief that Pete Rose deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Simple as that. So I hope you learned some new elements to the Hall of Fame and also the status of the late Pete Rose in our 22nd episode of Mo's World, the baseball podcast. Don't forget, we release new episodes 2 times per month on the first Friday of the month and the last Friday of the month, each about 20 minutes long. Now, thank you for listening, and please spread the word to your friends. Our next episode will begin Season 2, Episode 1 on January 3rd, 2025. Happy New Year, as we will be discussing Greg Maddux, his career, and the changes that now exist in drafting that make you wonder, well, what if? Would he have even been drafted? So in the meantime, ask yourself, whose world is it? It's Mo's World.